Hi, this is Margaret Dovgal with the Innovation Forum. And today we're going to ask, who are you and what do you do?
I'm Jen Simmons. I am owner and CEO of Forefront Energy.
And what is Forefront Energy?
We create off-grid power and control solutions for the oil and gas industry, along with zero-emissions generator and hydraulic control.
And where are we right now?
Pouce Coupe, BC.
Where's Pouce Coupe for someone who doesn't know British Columbia?
Well, Pouce Coupe is a post office box and a school on the side of the highway. It is about 10 kilometers out of Dawson Creek, BC.
And why did you choose to set up your company here?
Low taxes. Well, we were born and raised in Pouce Coupe. My kids went to school in Pouce Coupe. And we value being close to home. We want to, a lot of our competitors are in Calgary. We like being close to the field. We like that we can deliver our units, we can maintain our units, and we can sell units that we want to live beside.
A lot of people, when they think of oil and gas, they may be confused to see solar. And, that's a problem for those who don't know anything about oil and gas. Maybe for those people, explain, why is there solar on your facility here right now?
Well, in 2020, the government decided that you're no longer allowed to vent methane. So they came out with a new regulation that said oil and gas industry is not allowed to vent methane on new well sites. Now, in the past, we used pneumatics with fuel gas to vent our actuators on land. This had its perks, but it was a lot of emissions. So the perk of it was very low power demand. The negative is it was venting methane, which is bad for the environment. So when they dropped that regulation, oil companies had to put, say, air compressors and then open and control their valves with air compressors, or they could go to electric actuation. The ripple effect of it is they needed more power on site than what was currently being used. So before, a gas well only needed very little power, and with the new control regulations, they needed a lot more power. So there was a demand to create power. So your option is you either put a generator on site, you run the generator 24 hours a day, and you burn fuel.
What kind of fuel?
Natural gas or propane, depending on the oil company. Some use the fuel gas out of the ground. Some prefer to put a propane bullet there. Or you can create solar. So, solar is not new in the oil and gas, but it was not done on a large scale. Most gas wells have a few solar panels, a few batteries, but that's all they needed. And now when the regulations come out, the power demand went up and we needed a reliable power source. We went with a renewable power source as opposed to having a generator running on site all of the time.
So we'll be looking at some of the technologies your company has come up with to resolve some of these challenges. But before we do that, would you tell us broadly about the things you've been working on and how they fit into this broader challenge?
Well, our goal is to get emissions down while also maintaining reliability and operational functions, because we want to support the oil and gas companies in getting as much oil and gas out of the ground as possible, but also in as effective and clean as possible. So we don't want the perception that the oil and gas industry is going to go away. We want to help them do this in a sustainable manner.
In this region, everyone I speak to tells me essentially this, that they're proud of the work that is being done to make this industry cleaner, that has been done. It operates at such a high level. Why do you think people outside of this region struggle to understand just how much effort has gone in and is going into sustainability?
Well, I think for one, the government's regulations and how we're not allowed to market how good we're doing is the main handicap there. I think also I don't think a lot of people out of Northeast BC realize how invested we are in this and how close to our community this is. I think on a map, if you look at Northeast BC, it seems so far away. I don't think people actually realize that we live and breathe this industry every day. This is our life, and it is something that is around us and it's not leaving. So let's make it better instead of trying to eliminate it.
So it sounds like you're an innovator, Jen. Can you tell me a little bit more about the innovators at your company and in your community that you're really proud of?
Well, I am not the innovator of the family. I am just they stacked hands and nominated me as to be the boss, but I am not the brains behind this operation. My father-in-law, my brother-in-law, and my husband and their cousin do most of the innovating. They're the ones that were on the well sites. They're the ones that live and breathe this. My father-in-law has 6 patents. We have 1 patent. We've applied for another patent for our hydraulics. Inventing, doing things differently has just been something that we have always done as a family. So we took this opportunity to come together. We've always worked together. In the past, we've had a few businesses together, so that is not new to us. We just all stacked hands and created a company that could move forward in this industry. We could not do this without each one of us. We each wear a different hat, and we each bring something to the table differently that allows us to get this idea to the market. In Northeast BC, there's a ton of innovators. There is ideas come out of Northeast BC like crazy, but a lot of it doesn't get to market because there isn't the background or the ability to get it to the next level.
So what I'm also hearing is that you don't need to be an engineer or a product designer or a technical expert to facilitate innovation. I think I've heard you come out of a business background. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, we actually get asked that all the time. None of us are engineers. We can pay someone to be an engineer. You can't pay somebody to think outside the box. You can't pay somebody to have the mindset to improve the way they're currently doing business. So, we've got a lot of help in for engineering, all of that nonsense, but we are not engineers. I have a business degree. I've run a business for the last 20 years in the oil and gas industry. And because of our 5 unique individual abilities, we've been able to create a successful company to move forward.
What is this actually used for? What is it powering?
Okay, so this is used to power a remote well site. So in Northeast BC, we have well sites that have anywhere from 1 well up to 12 wells per pad. So this would go on site and it would power the well site so they could get the gas out of the ground. So it powers communications, it powers solenoids, it powers electric actuators, it powers air compressors, it powers shutdowns, it powers everything they need to report and safely get gas out of the ground and into a pipeline.
And how many wells are there in Northeast BC like that?
Oh, wow. There's a lot.
So what are we looking at right now, Jen?
This is our Mark II Power Series. So the idea behind this is we give a solar-first system to operate gas wells. So this particular unit comes with 10 panels, 3 lithium batteries, and a backup generator. So when this runs the site off of solar, when there's not enough solar, it uses the batteries. If the batteries get to 18%, the generator auto starts, fills it back up. This runs for 3 hours to fill the batteries back up to 100%. So we design them for 3-day autonomy, meaning you can go 3 days with 0 sun. So say there's a snowstorm, the fires cause a lot of sun to go out. So if you can go 3 days, smoke, whatever, and then you get 3 days, this runs for 3 hours, then you get another 3 days. So the idea being that this runs very minimal throughout the year, burning very little fuel, creating very little emissions. There's a solar charger, there's an inverter, there's a heater. This is turned off, but there's a PLC. So this is all remote monitored and data logged. So we remote monitor everything, and then we can monitor how much solar it's used, how much power it's used, how much generator it's used, how much fuel it's burned, which makes it really easy for them to report their emissions. So we can send our clients a report every month that says the generator didn't run, the generator ran for 3 hours, or the generator didn't run. So they can accurately report the data instead of guessing off of a spreadsheet or a runtime report or something like that.
Oh, where'd you get this idea, Jen?
Well, we were operators, so our job was to get oil and gas out of the ground. We were in the industry for the last 20 years, and we found that there was a need to do this better than was currently on the market. So our first idea was the zero-emissions generator. So we have designed a zero-emissions generator that can create power off of the differential of a wellhead. We invented that, we tested it on a well site, and then we sent it off to the patent office. While I was at the patent office, we came up with this idea to get to market sooner and to realize that this can be done off of solar. In reality, we almost worked ourselves out of the zero-emissions generator because we were able to do the solar and battery with the backup generator so efficiently that we didn't really need to have our zero-emissions generator. Now, the zero-emissions generator, we just received funding from IRAP, so that just wrapped up. It's completed now. It's going to go to a well site and test for another 6 months. So it's at like TRL level, maybe 8 right now.
As technology readiness.
Yeah. And then we're going to test that. We're going to redesign that, and then we'll be manufacturing and getting that ready for market.
Oh, that's great. And the idea is you manufacture it and sell it to others who want to purchase it, or What does that look
We'll
like?
do both. We'll manufacture. We have a third-party manufacturer lined up in Calgary. We'll manufacture and sell in Canada, and then we have a partner lined up to sell globally, just so that I can hit the markets.
That's phenomenal. And do you have one of your zero emissions generators here on site?
Yeah.
So what are we looking at right now?
Well, so this is a zero emissions generator. So the way this works is this brings in pressure from the wellhead, and it moves the D-slides back and forth, which creates hydraulic pressure. From hydraulic pressure, we turn a generator and create power. So the benefit of the zero emissions generator is we're not using any gas, we're not burning any gas, we're just borrowing the pressure. So we take the pressure, we move this, we create hydraulic pressure, and then we turn a generator with the hydraulic pressure. So the benefit of this is it's not going to run all of the time. It'll sit there, and as the power demand peaks, the slide moves back and forth more, creating more power. If there's a low power demand, it just sits there and holds until it's ready to create more power. So it's not, a piece of equipment running all of the time was just wasting energy. It just uses what it needs.
And how much power, in a theoretical sense, could it produce from a single site?
This particular one needs 500 pounds PSI differential, and it can create 1 horsepower of energy. So like 750 continuous watts of power, a ton of power. Our idea, after this is tested on the well site for 6 to 8 months, we're going to redesign it smaller. This is really busy, but this is for our testing. So a lot of this stuff will not be there in the future, but this is just for our testing to get it ready to, we want to know. We want to data log it all. We want to know. Eventually it'll be, the size of a small suitcase. That's how big it'll be on.
That's tiny, actually.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then it'll, if more power is needed, you just simply make it bigger. Right? So it'll be, and that's part of our test in the next 6 months. How big can we get? How big does it need? How much pressure? Some real life numbers, not just our calculations.
So you're thinking in a scenario where you want to get maximum energy from a single facility, you're not stacking modules, you're actually just making it larger.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I've heard there's a lot of enthusiasm in rural communities about the potential of this generator. Yeah, what's it with that? Why would they find the value in this?
Well, the benefit of this, there's potential to create power from any pressure drop. So where something is being regulated, there's loss. So we can harness that loss, that energy loss, and create power with it, is the idea behind it.
Oh, that's incredible.
Without burning any of it.
I'm not from the oil and gas space, but I've been hearing a lot lately that, you need a lot of pressure. You need it to pull, to extract, you need it to transport across the system. In this case, why is there such a big pressure differential at these drill sites?
Well, it comes out of the ground at such a high pressure, and then to be able to use it, you have to get it into a lower pressure. So, there's a ton of, and then we send it down a pipeline, and then we pressure back up, and then we depressurize it. I would love somebody to do a study to find out how many times that one piece of gas was pressured up and depressured, changed, to find out at the end use result. And every time that a pressure is changed, there's lost energy.
Mm-hmm. And you're just harnessing what's going to be lost anyways. Wow, adding no emissions, and you're providing energy not only for the facility itself, but also for maybe communities that are neighboring.
Yeah, there's a ton of potential for this. There's a ton of potential for offshore. They're really interested in this. Hazardous locations, they're really interested in it. It can be very safe and low emissions, and anywhere there's a pressure drop is eventually our idea to get that to it. And a lot of remote communities have gas lines coming in to heat them, but they still don't have power lines coming in.
Gotcha. Yeah, we've been hearing, on our tour here in the Northeast that, some communities have had their lines completely go out due to wildfires. So now they're overwhelmingly reliant on generators, and, that's expensive, that's stressful, that's high capital cost for businesses and for families. And yeah, I could see this working really well.
Yeah, and for a remote community, this would be a much bigger unit, but that's the idea behind it, is that it can grow, it can get smaller. One of our main core values in our business is if you don't need it, we're not going to sell it to you. You don't need it. If you don't need 1 horsepower of power, we're not going to sell you 1 horsepower of power. So the best way to eliminate is to reduce. If basically look at a water bottle. We can recycle, or we could just use a Yeti.